This is Next Radio 2017 with Broadcast Bionics.
Hi everyone, I'm Alex. I'm the UK Digital Content Manager at audioBoom. I've been working at audioBoom for about 2 years now, and one of the things that's really struck me is the amount of fan-made content being made in podcasting, not just across audioBoom, across podcasting in general. I think podcasting is a really great tool to make anything, and I think if you're a fan, you can talk very freely and very easily about something you're passionate in. And if you are passionate in something, you're probably going to be pretty well served as to find something that you're interested in. I put this slide together, had a little dig through Apple Podcasts, and I found a massive subsection of lots of different fan podcasts that you can see there that has now skipped past. And it included stuff like podcasts by Prince fans, podcasts about the Archers, fan podcasts about the Beach Boys, even down to fan podcasts about true crime podcasts, which seems a bit meta to me. But I wanted to look at why fan podcasts are so popular. But it's quite a big topic, so I thought I'd choose something that's quite close to my heart, and that's football podcasting. So I've worked in sports media primarily for the past 6 years, apart from 6 months in TV, which I won't talk about at a radio conference. It's mainly been in audio. But I wanted to look at why fan football podcasts are so popular. So I decided to type Arsenal into Apple Podcasts, and I found 24, to begin with, fan podcasts made about Arsenal. Here we've got Swedish Arsenal podcasts, Bulgarian, lots of American ones, and some really big hitters there. There's some podcasts there that get some massive listens. I think what's quite startling to me is that football clubs and organisations and sporting organisations generally haven't really latched on to podcasting or audio as a tool to engage with fans, but fans and unofficial outlets seem to have done that. So I wanted to look at why that is. I think the first thing that I should do is kind of explain why I think podcasting is such a useful tool. So first of all, why podcast? I think being free is a really important thing. Free to make, if you want it to be. If you've got a smartphone and a computer and an internet connection, you can make and distribute a podcast. Free to listen to, unless you're paying for content if podcasters have monetized in a different way. Accessibility of podcasts, again, if you've got a smartphone and a computer, you can listen to them. The way that you can engage your audience with podcasting is very different to many other mediums. You can tap into an audience and retain an audience in a way that you can't do with a lot of other media. Revenue potential, we can make you money. We can't promise to make you millionaires overnight, but we can certainly try. And flexibility as a podcaster and as a consumer. So flexibility of distribution of podcasting. There's no hard and fast rules. You can podcast when you want to, and you can release content when you want to. And it's the same as a consumer as well. You can listen when you want to. And choice. Choice is a word I'm going to come back to again a bit later on. We have so much choice nowadays, and as I said before, we can choose what we want to listen to and whatever we're interested in. So just some stats to back that up. This is from Radar last year. So 25% increase in podcast listeners in the UK. At audioBoom, we teamed up with Edison last year, and we've done some research which shown that our content is being listened to by 106% more listeners than it was this time last year, which is massive. In the UK, there's over 5 million people listening to podcasts at the moment. That gender split that you can see on there, the one that we found with the audioBoom study was a little bit more even, but that's a gender split, 39% female, 61% male. And it's kind of the more digitally savvy, potentially, demographic listening to podcasts, 20 to 45-year-olds listening to podcasts on their smartphones. So I think that really supports the theory that people are changing the way that they consume content, and podcasting being a new medium. People are really latching onto that, and more people are doing so. And this slide shows you a few headlines, which I think kind of backs up that we are changing massively the way that we consume content. And I really think sports media is a perfect microcosm to show that. We don't consume sport or sport opinion in the same way that we did 5, 10, 15 years ago, certainly not 5 years ago. So whereas we would have gone to Sky Sports or the BBC for the vast majority of our content, nowadays Amazon, Facebook, Twitter are all streaming sport content. Sky have had to slash their subscriptions, they're losing rights rapidly, they're cutting production costs because other people are muscling into that space. If you want to see a goal scored in any of the major leagues, you can probably find it on Twitter about 30 seconds after it's been scored in GIF form. So if you want to, you can cut out completely the major broadcasting options that we would have gone to previously. It's not as it was previously, and I think podcasting has really tapped into that too. We can get our opinion about sport and our opinion about how we consume it, not necessarily through the mediums that we would have done previously. So with all this considered, why are fan podcasts so popular? Going back to some of the reasons that I went through before, I think accessibility is a really, really key part of this. You can listen when you want and how you want to. And with some of our sport content on audioBoom, we've sort of targeted audiences maybe going to and from football. And I think tapping into getting your reaction when you want it, I think is a really, really key part of that. I think loyalty is a really important word with this too. Loyalty not only to the club or to the organisation that you're listening to a fan podcast about, I think the loyalty as an audience. As I said before, podcasting creates a really engaged audience that you don't necessarily get with the mediums. And I think that paired with the fact that you're talking about something that you feel really passionate about is really key. And I think that's why fan podcasts have found quite a zeitgeist. Objectivity, or the lack thereof. People who are fan podcasting don't necessarily have to toe a certain party line, whereas official podcasts or official media or kind of a more mainstream media perspective will have to toe a certain line and won't have the capability to be independent. I think if you're critical and you can engage in debate and you can argue with certain points or argue with certain things, I think people are much more likely to tap into that. And I think we're also more likely to listen to people that we might agree with on certain topics. If something's quite close to your heart, I think that's probably something that rings true there. And this next point, I think, follows on from that. Everyone's a pundit nowadays, or everyone can be. We've got the tools at our disposal to broadcast our voice over so many mediums, and I think that's really tapped in with podcasting. We've got so many fan Twitter accounts or YouTube TV accounts like Arsenal Fan TV, and you can tap into that, and I think podcasting's really given people a voice to do that too. And I think the continuation of fanzine culture taps into that too. So fanzines becoming very popular 20, 30, 40 years ago, saw as a reaction to football fans against very negative perceptions of football fans in the media. And I think that sort of continued that sort of ethos of building a community of fans around that. I think that as we've gone more digital and we've moved away from a more kind of analog world, I think naturally we'd find a new capability of doing that. We found that some of our fan podcasts coexist with fanzines, so I'm not entirely sure that they'll exist without each other, but it's certainly something to consider going forward. And I think the distribution and reach of podcasting is really helpful. Again, it's a very cost-effective way of getting your message out to a lot of people, and it's replaced more costly mediums like fanzines and maybe like running a website if you're thinking about hosting costs. I think the three main things that I would take away from this, though, is the independence of fan podcasting, not being beholden to anyone else's opinions, the ease of which you can get your message out there, and again, that word choice. I think choice is really important. We can choose exactly how we consume our media and who we consume it from nowadays, and I think that's really, really tapped into why fan podcasts are so popular. What I think will be interesting is to see how quickly or how soon clubs, organisations and other sporting broadcasters start to pick up audio and podcasts as a more viable choice, because they haven't really nowadays, so we'll see how long that takes. But yeah, that's it. Thanks so much for listening.
The old Megan was snatched up into